Hello, hello. Why is it not going? You're gonna say? Okay. Perfect. Got it. Hello, hello. Bro, you're always first. Like, honestly, appreciate you. Appreciate you, dog. You're always first. If it's not Harsh, it's you. But Harsh has been slacking lately. He's been lacking. You know? Perfect. How's everyone's day? How's everyone's doing? I didn't stall. I was right on time. It was just a bit laggy and it didn't pick up. Dude, this is a really big pause. Oh. There it is. Fucking big ass pause. Does it every time. I know, I saw that they censored you in Discord again. Honestly, here's the thing. To be totally honest, I actually don't have much power or authority in that Discord, and I've come to realize this due to the continuous bullying I receive. I'm actually powerless. There's not much I can do. I'm literally just there for entertainment. Yeah. Hi, Luvi. Which is good. Perfect. Okay, so we are on chapter 747. To be totally honest, don't know how many chapters I'm going to get through today. I have a really big headache. I am the Discord's jester. I'm going to be super honest, you guys. I've had a massive headache all day. So I might only stream for an hour, to be totally honest with you. We'll just see if it starts to go away. I took some Advil, so I'm gonna, hopefully that'll kick in. Yeah. Well, without further ado, let's get into it. Chapter 747, First Blood. Under the crimson but gloomy moonlight, Emlyn took out the metal bottle, twisted its lid, and downed it. Hi, Zen. Then he seemed to transform into a shadow as he drifted over the surface of the wall, quickly and silently following Roose Bathory. Sanguine were always known for their speed. True barons ran through the sides of the dark alleys and streets, one after another, spending more than half an hour to arrive at the messy and dirty Eastborough. I don't think I have it on manual. It normally always does it just automatically. Huh. Weird. I don't know. I'll check after, but I think it's never been on manual before. Then half an hour to arrive at the messy and dirty East Borough, where... Oh, there. Hold up. Oh, okay. Is it bugging out? Sounds good. I'm sorry. Milos just put in the Discord, the child of angels, the most depraved streamer, the inheritor of the Epstein Island, the family dinner, the biggest force lover. I summon you at Lady of Despair, wife of Dwayne Dantes. I am loving this comment so very much. I'm here. I am here. Hello. Eastboro, where they stopped in front of the old apartment. You know what? Just for that, here, one sec. Milos, just wait. Just for that comment, I have added you as a moderator. Not anymore. I was like, that cured my headache. That actually cured all illnesses and ailments I had. Seeing Ruth Bathory choose to climb over the pipe and using the most stealthy approach to head to the third story, Emlyn slowed down his pace and didn't rush to follow behind. But you can't censor. I'll take it away if you censor anybody unjustly. I'll take it away. And Kami's also like pretty much head moderator, so he'll also censor you. He'll put you in a timeout. This potion only had one use: eliminate his smell to make it identical to his surroundings. After putting down the bottle in his hand, Emlyn raised the brass bottle and downed the liquids inside. The potion's Professor Sir is troublesome. He mumbled, looking down, and his hands became transparent, and the brass bottle seemed to be floating in front of his sleeves. After Emlyn stuffed the tiny bottle away, all was left. And this sanguine baron had already confirmed that the moon puppet was here. Sounds good. All that was left, a formal suite, a top hat, and a pair of leather boots without any buttons or lace. They formed a human shape as they moved about. Another completely transparent bottle resembling a perfume bottle flew over and floated in midair as it pressed itself, spurting the potion inside the clothes. Following that, the suit, top hat, and shoes turned faint and completely disappeared. After completing his invisibility, Emlyn glanced at the apartment where Roose Bathory had entered. He silently climbed the pipe and he chased after him with extreme speed. While the window was still ajar, he floated inside like a transparent cloud without causing so much as a stir. He hid the corners of and watched the thin-faced but charming Roose Bathory search for the target. The later slowly frowned, placing his empty cup. Since the place was empty, there was no cup in that. I don't know where I found cup. There wasn't even a mosquito, much less a person, despite the former becoming active in his past week. And this sanguine baron had already confirmed that the moon puppet was here. Suddenly, a creaking sound broke the frozen silence. The apartment's main door opened as a woman in black dress leisurely walked in. When she saw Ruth Bathory, she asked with an ethereal voice, "Who are you looking for?" I don't have it. I don't have where I'm supposed to, the music. I don't have the music. Did you send it? I don't have the music. There it is. Dude, my fucking headache is... I'm dying right now. You know why? It's because I didn't have... It's because I didn't have my glasses for a really long time. Okay. In her forehead, cheeks, neck, okay. However, Emlyn's eyes, the primordial moon's devout believer, had certain differences from her portrait. He discovered that her eyes, eyebrows, and mouth were curved up, like they were mimicking a crimson moon, and her forehead, cheeks, neck, and every layer of skin that she exposed had patches of withered grass and flowers. Man, what did Roose Bathory sell to her? Why would she become like this? Emlyn jumped in fright as he felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Meanwhile, withered grass mixed with dried flowers grew from the floor, walls, door, and ceiling in swathe. They began to isolate the room from the outside world, creating an extremely strange scene. Once Ruth Bathory caught the smell of danger, he didn't attempt to converse with her. Without any hesitation, he took out the metal bottle and drowned the liquid inside. He threw the bottle as his body dragged out after mages as he pounced towards the mutated Windsor. His fingernails extended as they swirled the black gases. The withered grass and dried flowers that were embedded in Windsor's face made her look like a huge doll. She met him with equally fast speed, clawing at Ruth Bathory without any aversion to being injured. After a series of collisions, Ruth Bathory was sent flying back and slammed into the walls. His sleeves were ripped apart, revealing bone-deep scratches to his skin, and, in the midst of his flesh, the withered grass and dried flowers slowly grew from inside out. What a monster. This was the first time Emlyn was encountering such an enemy. He huddled in a corner and nearly forgot to help his kinsman. He didn't rashly peer, as all kinds of thoughts flashed through his mind as he observed the battle between Ruth Bathory and Windsor. He considered how he should deal with the situation. The strangest of all was the withered grass and dried flowers. Withered grass and dried flowers. They were likely afraid of fire. Emlyn's heart stirred as he immediately abandoned the invisibility, took out another metal bottle and twisted the lid. He drowned it. He then spewed out a liquid out of his mouth. The grayish-red liquid ignited upon contact with air, extending its torching flames to the side. The flames stacked upon each other as the fire extended. Instantly, they engulfed the room in a scarlet orange of fire. Amidst cracking sounds, the withered grass and flowers were ignited one after another as they rapidly spread the flames to their own kind. In just a few seconds, the sealed environment was on the brink of destruction as the grass and flowers in Windsor's body, they were also turning aflame. At that moment, Ruth Bathory had a gaping hole dug through his chest, dug through his chest, making him lose a great portion of his combat strength. He was relying on the Sanguine's extraordinary recovery ability to barely hold up. Seeing his enemy as a flaming torch, Emlyn acutely noticed that her aura was weakening. He didn't hesitate and lunged forward, circling around Windsor and deliver several clawing swipes. Beneath his feet, whips of black grass rose and swirled around the primordial moon, believing that chains of bound were vitality. Intense and short bursts sounded as two figures suddenly closed the distance. All movement within the scene had vanished in an end as Emlyn grabbed Windsor's throat with his left hand, raising her up. After hesitating for a moment, he saw her hideous appearance and snapped her neck. A thin, mature wooden puppet embodied within the grass and dried flowers fell from Windsor's body as the flames in the apartment gradually died out. Emlyn yanked Windsor's mature head, turned around, and faced the heaving Ruth Bathory. He turned, pressed his free right hand to his chest, and he bowed with a smile. "Thank you for your help." Seeing Ruth Bathory instantly turn furious and helpless, Emlyn added in great delight, "Remember to hand over the puppet and beyond characteristics to Lord Nibs. They might be problematic." After saying that, black grasses coagulated behind him, turning into two illusory bat wings. With a whoosh, Emlyn flapped these wings as he turned to fly out of the window and land on the dark nearby alley. When he landed, he quickly converged the black gases and turned to look around. Seeing that Ruth Bathory hadn't followed him, Emlyn heaved a sigh of relief as he pressed his fist to his mouth. As he coughed up a mumbled, "I hate fire, I hate smoke." He was just about to leave his burrow when he felt a chill run down his back. Emlyn's mind suddenly intensely tensed up as he held onto Windsor's mutated head. Slowly turning around, he looked at the shadow in the corner. He first saw a very thin figure before identifying it. The body was thin and long, akin to a wooden pole. Its eyes and mouth were curved like a crescent, and the surface was embedded in plenty of withered grass and dried flowers. It was none other than the moon puppet from before. "And it's targeting me. What the hell is this? Am I still very far from where Lord Nibs stays? It's really dangerous outside." Thoughts surfaced in Emlyn's mind as he felt the spine turn cold and his muscles turn tense. As these thoughts flashed through his mind, he suddenly had an idea. He stared at the moon puppet and he murmured in ancient Hermes, "The fool that doesn't belong to this area, the mysterious ruler above the very fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck. Can't I have some sleep in the middle of the night?" Klein sat up and rubbed his temples in fury. He quickly left his body, took 4 steps counterclockwise, and entered the space above the gray fog. He then took a seat that belonged to the fool It's that fellow Emlyn White. Klein gave a glance at him curiously, emanating his spirituality, touching the crimson star that represented the moon. He then saw a stifled Emlyn and saw that the thin, strange puppet looking straight at him. The puppet was cloaked in a rich but illusory crimson moonlight. They were undulating like a tidal wave, making the connection with something high in the sky. At this moment, the crimson moonlight was spreading silently and enveloping Emlyn White within. There's a problem. There's something wrong with this puppet. Klein, who could see more than the gray fog's aid, didn't hesitate to summon the sea god scepter from the junk pile into his hand. The blue gems on the end of the bone scepter lit up one after another, emanating a blinding luster. After chanting Mr. Fool's honorific name and seeking his assistance, Emlyn felt that he had already cold blood turned colder. It felt like he would slowly freeze into ice. This made his body rapidly turn stiff as he watched the moon puppet stumble and stagger towards him. At this moment, the silver boat streaked down into the alley, causing all the gloom and darkness to scatter. The lightning bolt sizzled into a ball of lightning and landed on the moon puppet, drowning it in a swath of silver. The burst of light dissipated immediately as the strange puppet was left charred black. It lost all the decorations as it collapsed. As for Emlyn, his blood no longer froze as it resumed its flow. With him quickly recovering from the stiffness, he knew that Mr. Fool was watching. He hurriedly asked softly, "Do you need? No. What can I sacrifice to you?" He always believed that Mr. Fool adhered to the principle of equivalent exchange. Therefore, he believed that he needed to pay a corresponding price for requesting his assistance. After a brief silence, he saw the boundless gray fog and the faint figure behind it, and he heard a lofty and magnificent voice, the puppet. All right, Emlyn took 2 steps forward, bent down to pick up the puppet, and cleared up the scene before quickly leaving Eastborough. As for Klein, he curiously used the paper angel to disrupt any divination before returning to the real world. Just as he was planning to head back to bed, he suddenly discovered that the moonlight brightened outside as it seemed stained with blood. Klein walked to the window in puzzlement. When he looked out, he saw that the crescent had turned into a full for some point in time. It was scarlet red like blood. Another blood moon. Blood moon. Alger Wilson looked up at the sky and steadily walked into the lightning cathedral ahead of him. This was the place he would be giving his report tomorrow, and in the middle of the island, at the peak of the towering mountain, there was another cathedral named Chasm of Storm. It was the headquarters of the Church of Storm, the holiest of holy temples. Chapter 748. I do it. No, because here's the thing. I can't fuck with Emlyn. I'd be doing the same thing. I can't blame him. Inside the Lightning Cathedral, the high and spacious dome arched continuously. There wasn't any blank space, and the gold and blue was the main colors. It made anyone who walked beneath it subconsciously feel that the place was scattered and solemn, thus making them bow their heads. Alger Wilson often made contact with secret existences, and he often gathered all the places of the deity's residence. As a result, he no longer had a longing for this. He wasn't as respectful as before, but he still had to put on an act. Like the other sailors around him, he kept his head down as he lightened his footsteps without even daring to breathe clearly. In the silent atmosphere, there was lead and the priests all the way to the clergyman quarters in the back of the cathedral, with each of them getting a room. After closing the door, Alger saw the sanguine. Dario, you're back! Oh my god! What's up, dude? What piece of scripture do you got for us today? God bless Charlie Kirk. He is the most legendary hero in the history of the world. He saved black people and loved them all, and he saved America. Okay, so here's the thing. Don't mean to shit on your God there. Don't know how correct that statement is, but you know, welcome back. And it was more fun to sing. Is it wrong for me as a guy to make... I don't think so. Honestly, you kind of have a high-pitched voice too, so I feel like it just fits better with you as well. You know? Yeah. We are Charlie Kirk. What can I say? Every time the blood moon appeared, Once spirituality would be enhanced, powers that stemmed from spirituality and hell would receive a significant boost, while the negative emotions of living beings reached the explosive state. There. No. The higher the sequence, the more obvious it would be. Faintly, Alder heard sobbing, loud shouts, and whispering that was completely different from the solemnity, solemnity. He previously felt that the lightning cathedral illusory arms appeared before the eyes as they reached outward from the walls, floors, and ceilings. Like three-dimensional pale forests, Alger knew that Derek, yeah! You know what? If I can have Dwayne at the end of it, I guess I will accept Kirk. He's dead anyway, so it's not like I have to deal with him anymore. If that must be the case, you know? Dario, do you have any more wise words for us today before I lock into the book? Any more commandments you want to bring down for us, Moses? During this process, he suddenly heard a distant singing voice. Oh God, we all tried. The singing voice was indistinct, as though it came from the middle of the island. It kept echoing endlessly, as though it was right beside Alger. It didn't make him feel horrified, for it was akin to the woman who was away from the family and loved ones. Singing slowly and sadly as he took the surging tide. You do that, homie. You know what? I can't say I'm rooting for you, but, you know. Have fun. Alger pulled up at the towel and wiped his face before cocking his head to listen. He gradually frowned as he took out the small iron box from the priest's inner robe and placed it close to his ear. In it was the ocean. Are you, question, same time tomorrow? Well, I guess I'm not here tomorrow, but same time Monday? Yep, okay. He suspected that the residual mental imprint on it was temporarily enhanced by the blood moon. As a mental box came close, the singing by Alger's ears instantly became partly clear. I was wondering if I could change back the song. I was literally just about to ask. I was like, can I change back to song now? As the metal box came close, the singing by Alger's ears instantly became partially clear. Melancholically, sorrowful, wistful, and painful. There's a lot of fulls. But apart from that, there was still an ethereal and ancient voice sounding from it, forming a clear boundary with the clear singing as though they were in a duet. Crimson, what's up, my guy? You just missed it. The Charlie Kirk guy was here. Dario came back. Whose voice is that? It sounds like an elf. An item for the church that stems from the elves. This ocean songster beyond a characteristic on me comes from an elf. Alger nodded as he came up with a theory. Due to them sharing the sailor passway, the Church of Storms had always been in search of elven relics. They were used to concoct potions made into sealed artifacts or isolated underground. Those with relatively fewer negative effects were regarding the clergyman, therefore it wasn't odd that something similar would be stimulated on the night of the blood moon. If it was a mystical item, there would be a problem. If it's a sealed artifact, it means that there's definitely not simple. If the voice can penetrate the isolation barrier, Alger reined in his thoughts, brushed his teeth, and went to bed. As soon as he fell asleep and had a dream, after the unknown period of time, Alger suddenly felt that a little lucid. Vaguely aware that he was having a dream, but he automatically sized up his surroundings. He discovered that above him was rippling dark blue seawater, which was stacked up layer after layer and blocked the view of the sky. Ahead of him was a beautiful place made of coral. It was tall, spectacular, dark, and gloomy. Alger subconsciously walked towards the palace, walking into the open doors. Inside were columns of coral that held up exaggerated domes. The walls and the domes were filled with murals depicting the terror of the storm. After 100 meters, about 100, nope. Over 100 meters away, there was a throne embedded in sapphires, emeralds, and lustrous pearls above the 9-step staircase that was extremely striking. Alger looked over and saw a woman in a complicated ancient dress sitting on it. Her hair was black and held into a bun, her facial outline was soft, and her features were exquisite. She had beautiful and seemed timeless. The woman's expression was cold, and her ears sharp. Her deep brown eyes looked down at Alger from a commanding position. In her hand was a golden wine cup that complicated patterns. Alger was just about to say something when her eyes emitted silver light, resembling the bright flash of lightning tearing through the dream. Alger sat up and subconsciously gasped for breath. He found the dream both blurry and clear at the same time. The woman's appearance was blurry, as well as the details in the mural and coral palace, but her eyes and contented lighting that were sharp, and her sharp ears were clear. A high-ranking elf. Under the effects of the blood moon, her relics resonated with the ocean songster beyond the characteristics I have, resulting in an influencing my dream. As Alger guessed, he wondered which item it would be. Due to his limited standing and number of sealed artifacts, the mystical items he knew were limited. However, he knew certain knowledge that others didn't know, so he quickly thought of a possible target. Calamity Cohenheim. The Book of Calamity she left behind was likely being sent to Passu Island. After making a report and departing, I'll seek Mr. Fool's advice and see if there will be any unexpected influences regarding this matter. Alger didn't dare recite the fool's honorific name in the Church of Storm's headquarters. After daybreak, he didn't show any signs of abnormality. Under the servant's lead, he entered the room with the long table, and he was questioned by 3 mandated Punisher deacons. Upon these 3 deacons, only one of them possessed dark blue hair. This was because this wasn't a necessary change that would happen from consuming the Sailor Pathway potion. However, this trait would stubbornly be passed down, just like the elves. Oh my god, many of them with black hair would end up with blue hair. Nowadays, mixed bloods with elf blood mostly had blue hair. That was so bad. Alger sat at the end of the long table as he systematically answered the deacon's questions. He mentioned that what he had done at sea, what he had planned to do, and what he had succeeded, as well as his failures, and this would be compared to the description from his crew and prevent anyone from lying. Towards the end of the report, the deacon with dark blue hair glanced at Alger. He asked with a hoarse voice, "Do you know Admiral Star's Catlia?" "Not only do I know her," Alger was nearly taken aback as he answered after some thought, "I met her at the pirate convention." I'm sorry, I just laughed that it's like that they use the word convention, because I just think of like a Comic-Con or like an anime convention or something like that. And I'm like, they're just walking around with their little lanyards, dressed in cosplay. The deacon didn't harp on the question, as he directly said, "Think of means to get to know her. Try to investigate Gammon Sparrow's situation from her." Oh. Bye, Milos. Thanks so much for coming. What does me being in my mid-20s have to do with anything? Senior, but who knew that the reason was far more complicated and ludicrous than he had imagined. What did Gairman Sparrow do when I passed by Bayham? I should find the actual spot and take a look. Also, isn't the Terror Club's arch enemy the Aurora Order? Isn't Mr. Fool always targeting the true creator? Why did it change? No. Why is there an additional rose school of thought? Alger muttered to himself inwardly. As for the Terror Club having a demigod, he wasn't surprised. He even found it logical. How could an ancient existence not have a demigod under him? Besides, back when Vice Admiral Hurricane Kalangos died suddenly in a strange manner, he was already convinced that Mr. Fool had a high sequence blessed. Thankfully, my meeting with Gairman wasn't very secretive, otherwise things would be troublesome. Alger listened in silence without asking any questions like before. He accepted the mission and got up to leave the room. Backlands Northborough, outside of 160 Boakland Street, servants stood in 2 rows and welcomed their master's arrival. With white hair at his temples and deep blue eyes, Dwayne Dantes wore a tailcoat and a top hat with an inlaid gold cane. Together with butler Walter and the valet Richardson, he walked between his servants and arrived at the entry of the 3-story building. Waiting for his housekeeper, Tanaja, who he had long selected. She was in her early 40s and her hair was tied neatly. She had ordinary looks but wore an experienced demeanor. She wore gold-rimmed glasses and black and white dress, which was different from the other maidservants. From the information received with the interview, Klein knew that this lady was born in Eastborough. She was a believer of the Evernight Goddess, and she had chosen to be trained by a charitable organization by the church at the age of 15, making her become a qualified maidservant. After more than 10 years of hard work, as well as the free lessons from the night schools, she was promoted to the lowest-ranking maidservant in the tycoon's house, to a lady's maid. She later followed the tycoon's daughter when she got married, and she became a housekeeper until the family met a financial crisis, forcing her to leave. She was extremely experienced when it came to managing a household. After this lady signed a contract, she received £1,000 from Dwayne Dantes as petty cash for the month before entering the agreement with butler Walter on whether they should purchase or rent a carriage. From her point of view, since Mr. Dantes' goal was to enter high society, move into Westborough, or even Empressborough, a carriage needed to be custom-made and not appear inadequate. Before that, they could rent a high-end carriage for a year and wait until there was hope of him becoming a noble before they had one custom-made. It was more than a reasonable choice that didn't waste money on appearing inadequate. She convinced Walter and, of course, Klein. This was because renting a high-end carriage with the horse cost only £88, and the 2-wheeled carriage cost only £42. Of course, someone who controls the household's expenditures needs to be someone who's good at accounting. Klein felt poignant as he smiled at Tanaja before stepping into the 3-story house. This was the stage for which a tycoon, Dwayne Dantes, would be acting on. Yeah, it would. You got me acting up. Upon entering the house, the first thing Klein saw was the foyer. It was very spacious here, with several chairs and umbrellas placed there. Furthermore, the furnishing was elegant and the decorations were befitting of his status. If you haven't known of the structure ahead of time, from this inspection, Klein might have managed to be in the living room. I'm always on my best behavior. After passing through the second main door, the sight before his eyes opened up. It was a huge hall that could accommodate dozens of dancing guests. In the middle of the hall was a brightly colored, thick and plush carpet. Surrounding it were spaces covered with bright marble tiles and piano stone sculptures. The other decorations decorating the hall, there was also stone columns that held up the second floor with inlaid ornaments. To the left was a series of floor-to-ceiling windows, and beyond them was a lush green lawn and blooming gardens. To the right were walls, wooden doors, and corridor that led to the lounges, storerooms, washrooms, kitchens, and butler rooms, etc. The hall was 2 stories high, and there was a crystal chandelier hanging down from the ceiling. It instantly made one imagine what would it look like when night fell. Dude, he's living large right now. The hall had 2 stories, and ahead of him were 2 staircases that led up to the second floor. The winding corridor here was square in shape, and the emptied out section of the middle happened to be where the carpeted hall was. All Klein needed to do was hold a cup of wine and stand behind the railings of the second floor, and he could leisurely take in the sights of the ball below. There were many rooms on the second floor. There was a living room, an activity room, a dining room, washrooms, a billiard room, and many bedrooms. If any guests needed to stay for the night, they would stay there. Similarly, on the second floor, there was 2 staircases that led to the third floor. That was where Dwayne Dantes stayed. There was an exaggerated master bedroom and a bar counter equipped open room that allowed one to sunbathe and enjoy the scenery. There was a study which could be deemed as a miniature library, as well as 2 changing rooms and a small bedroom for the valet and the maids on night duty. There was also rooms meant for the household members in the bathrooms, but Klein was currently a single man. Currently. Keep him away from me. As for the other servants, they lived in the terrace house by. Does he get down with someone? We're talking a lot about how Klein's a single man. He better not. I don't want my man dirtied up. The mansion's underground area was equally spacious with a huge stone room and wine cellar. Taking off his coat, Klein stood at the balcony in the half-open room on the third floor with his back straight. He took the sights and surrounding streets and couldn't help but inwardly. No! 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 The only person that he's allowed is Leonard. So it better be Leonard, which I know it's not, unfortunately. I'm gonna beat up whatever bitch got in the way, you know? Fucking run her over with my car. He had already paid the year's rent yesterday afternoon, and he could not only force himself to enjoy this place that he rented. I'm so sad now. Meanwhile, he had also directly paid Walter a year's salary of £115, as it was very possible that he would flee once he obtained the Antigonus family's notebook. He didn't want to affect the butler's livelihood. On the same logic, he had long paid housekeeper Tanya her annual salary of £42. It allowed the lady to realize how generous Mr. Dwayne Dantes was, as well as how mannered he was. Although the 2 had servants' negotiations and hard work, they hired all the servants. The annual salary of a male steward was £30, the valet Richardson was £35, and the 2 footmen in charge of valeting guests and serving the dining table each received £30. The 2 ladies' maids were £18 each, and the 2 chambermaids were £12 each, and the 2 handymen were £12 each. Apart from them, the cook was £30, the assistant cook was £15, and the scullery maid was £13. The parlor maid was £11, the nursery governess was £25, the steward's boy was £10, the 2 coachmen were £25, the 2 gardeners were £20 each, the 2 laundresses were £10 each, all for a total of £413. It cost about £8 a week. Together with the 2 head servants' annual salary, Klein needed to pay £570 a year, making it approximately £11 a week. This was still without including the expenditures for food, clothes, and all kinds of daily necessities. I'll pay £10 to £20 a week without any income. The moment I opened my eyes, Klein did a mental calculation. He's forced himself to cast his gaze onto the garden. Yeah, distract yourself after that one, buddy. In the afternoon, he had paid off the rental fee for the 2 carriages and servants' first week's salary, together with him giving housekeeper Tanya £1,000 for the daily expenditures. He only had £1,286 and 18 gold coins left. However, he would receive the payments from his justice and man permit within the week. I wonder how long that £1,000 can last Tanya. Just to store up the required alcohol beverages for the ball would cost a few £100s. The rich Mr. Dwayne Dantes fell into a deep thought as he could hardly extract himself from it. To calm his emotions, he declared to head above the grey fog while the butler and servants were busy with handling the household chores. He wanted to study the strange puppet which Emlyn White had sacrificed. After the blood moon happened, Klein had no choice but to return to the mysterious world and pulled fours into it. Let's go! Dude, the transition from yesterday to today, now when I hear fours is coming in the picture, I'm like, yes, give me more. Yesterday I wanted to puke. And then I actually understood her character and I was like, holy shit, Dara, you're fucking stupid. She's a very well-written character. After everything was okay, he was just too tired. He accepted Emlyn's sacrifice, and after confirming that there wasn't anything weird, he returned to the real world and collapsed into bed. After straightening his stylish dark-colored vest, Klein walked into the door and said with an awaiting valet Richardson, I have a habit... I love her even more! I have a habit of sleeping in the afternoon for 45 minutes. I don't want anyone disturbing me. Yes, sir, Richardson immediately replied humbly. He was an illegitimate son with mixed blood. His father was Loanese, a supervisor at the manor, while his mother was native from the East Balham, who was a slave in the same manor. Ooh. Don't like the subtext on that one. After he was born, he was met with discrimination and bullying. This resulted in a weak and submissive character, and because he was good-looking, he was He was suitable for valeting guests. He was selected by the manor's master to valet before being brought to Backland. I don't like what that is insinuating. It's really sad. After both houses of the Lowing Kingdom had abolished slavery, he found himself... Dario, you're back! Hey, buddy. Long time no see. No, that's what I'm saying, is I was like, first off, don't like the fact that his mother was this slave and basically was probably sexually assaulted by his father, and then, he was probably not treated very well by, I would say, the men and the women, because he was very pretty, which is upsetting. After both houses of the Lowing Kingdom had abolished slavery, he found himself out of the job. All he could do was seek the help of the City Family Servant Assistant Association. Dario is David. David! Another David! Dude, we're double Davided up. We should put the two Davids in a ring and make them fight. Only one David left standing. 2 Davids in, 1 David out. City Family Servant Assistant Association. Before Klein, he had served 2 households and committed some mistakes, but he did build up a wealth of experience. He caught Butler Walter's notice, and he became a Dwayne Dantes valet. After, always bet on David. Dude, we should just get a bunch of Davids and make them battle each other to see who's the best David. Before Klein, he had served 2 households and committed some mistakes, but he did build up a wealth of experience. He caught Butler Walter's notice, and he became Dwayne Dantes' valet. After looking at Richardson, who stood straight and tall, with a height that was almost identical to him, Klein indiscernibly... all I can say is I got my money on David. That's all I'm saying. Technically, you know what, here's the thing. If lawyer David did get into a fight, I would have to side with him as, he is my lawyer. Out of obligation, I would put my money on lawyer David, not, Dario David. No offense. I just have loyalties. Furthermore, he's such a tall man, but he appears cowardly and weak. However, this can also be considered an advantage. He's obedient, silent, and submissive. Are we still talking about... Okay, this guy can... Hold up. After looking at Richardson, who stood straight, because Butler Walter straight and tall, with his height and almost identical to himself, Klein indiscernibly shook his head and sighed. This guy can be clearly a celebrity. His looks can only be this guy that can clearly be a celebrity with his looks can only be a servant in this day and age. Furthermore, he's such a tall man, but he appears cowardly and weak. However, this can be considered an advantage. He's obedient, silent, and submissive. He does whatever a master instructs him to do, and he will absolutely not dare to make his own decisions. If I only have a valet with me requiring him to handle all kinds of matters, Richardson will definitely not... I cut my ear. Will not be up to mark. However, I still have Butler Walter and so many other servants. He can handle the other matters with his experience and capabilities, without moozing further. Klein locked the door and returned to the side of the reclining chair. He took 4 steps counterclockwise and entered above the gray fog. He sat at the seat of the fool and beckoned his hands to make the charred moon puppet fly over and land before him. After scrutinizing it, Klein didn't discover anything odd about it, hence he conjured a pen and paper and wrote a divination statement, its origins. Putting down the fountain pen, Klein waited a few seconds before picking up the piece of paper and leaning back in his chair. My spiritual perception didn't stop me from making the divination statement. It means that the latent danger of the moon puppet isn't as bad as the Rose School of Thought's beyond her characteristic. Klein mumbled as he skillfully recited the divination statement. My ear's fine. I just cut it right here, and it really hurts. In the gray, hazy world, he saw an altar with a circle of fire torches around it. On the altar, there was what he suspected to be human skin and traces of blood everywhere. In the middle were 3 candles and a few puppets that resembled thin wooden poles. These miniature puppets had curves, eyes, and mouths as though the corresponding to the crimson crescent in the sky. Therefore, they continued hanging in the creepy smiles as withered grass and dried flowers remained embedded in their bodies. A priest in the dark red robe encircling the altar with heavy steps, as though he was dancing a dance created by an epileptic patient. It's a crazy description. At some point in time, moonlight gathered and shone on the puppet as it increased its brightness towards the end. It resembled the gentle ebbing of water waves. The ritual quickly came to an end as the priest picked up the thin puppet and walked to the human body bound to the frame beside him. Instantly, he stabbed it through the body's eye socket. Amidst tragic circles, the scene quickly changed. The dead man with the moon puppet in his eye socket was buried somewhere in an orderly manner. The scene once again skipped and showed further development. Every moon, or a blood moon, the moon's glow would scatter over the grave, seeping into it like water with surrounding darkness turned gloomy. Klein opened his eyes and adjusted his seating posture as he had a general idea of the moon puppet's origins. He came from a prayer ritual of the primordial moon, not demoness. Primordial moon. It was a ritual lasting for centuries. Over the past few centuries, they had absorbed the powers of the crimson moon, maturing bit by bit until they were consumed by the colonists. They usually didn't exhibit any oddly, or something happened when the primordial moon believer activated them with the correct method. As for what happened, Klein had no idea. In a particular sense, the primitives are equivalent to the primordial moon's chosen ones. Last night, after I smote one to death, that evil god was enraged, thus causing the blood moon. Klein generally tapped the molten table edge, and he came to a preliminary judgment. The primordial moon's wrath directly changed the moon's phenomenon, making it a blood moon. If this theory is right, this means that the domain of the crimson moon, the goddess, is inferior to the primordial moon. Interesting. She might only have the title in name, as she grasped a grade 0 sealed artifact. Klein nodded slightly as he attempted to divine the weakness of the moon puppet. This time he saw sunlight and lightning. This means that the beyonder powers in the sun domain and the lightning from the storm domain are best at dealing with it. Klein interpreted the information. He threw the moon puppet into the junk pile and returned to the real world. An hour later, Walter, who was wearing a starched suit and white gloves, knocked on the door. He bowed and said, "Sir, I'll be printing your name card in a while. They'll be sent to the neighbors along with some gifts. They will take a few days to observe and determine your situation. If they're willing to accept you, they would send you gifts and invite you to their guests as their guest. Does your name card need a title? David! What's up, homie? Also, here's the thing. I said I would be on your side if... Oh shit! Luby, you already clipped that? You're quick with it. I said I would be on your side. Did you see that part of the clip? Or was it just me saying that we were gonna make you fight the other David to see who the best David was? You know? I said I would put my money down on you. I'm loyal. Klein lampooned as he rejected, always lampooning, replied with a smile, Merchant Dwayne Dantes from Desi would suffice. Walter nodded and said, based on your wishes, I'll immediately arrange for you to have etiquette lessons. The focus will be dancing, and I've hired a professional teacher. Yeah. David, I also think that, having read many magazines, Klein knew that the social life he wanted to enter had many balls, so he wasn't surprised by Walter's suggestion. He said with a nod, okay. With that said, he looked sideways at the valet, Richardson. Prepare the carriage, I'll be heading over to St. Samuel Cathedral. Klein vividly remembered that his main goal was to act as a devout believer of the Evernight goddess in order to get to know the corresponding clergymen, and from there he would find a way to sneak into the Channis Gate. Therefore, he planned to pray at the cathedral whenever he had time to express his sincerity and get to know the members of the clergy. Bullseye's always been a mod. I gave Bullseye mod privileges, I think, like, the first day. He's always been a mod. And I've only had to time him out once. If he gets 3 strikes, he loses his mod privileges, but he's only gotten 1 so far. give Charlie Kirk David mod privileges. There you go. Before long, Klein boarded a rented, luxurious 4-wheeled carriage, decked out in coat and top hat, and enjoyed the scenery on his journey. He sampled the black tea with his adorn and sliced the lemon. Hi, unknown. In fact, there was a tiny bar counter in the carriage, and in it, Butler Walter had specially prepared golden lanty. That's what I'm saying. He would fuck up my shit so bad. As well as all kinds of red and white wine came from Intis. However, Klein wasn't someone who enjoyed drinking. As a beyonder, he didn't like the feeling of being tipsy. It made him recall the feeling of losing control. Therefore, he used an excuse of him hiding in the cathedral. Honestly, I feel like a drunk Klein would be really fun. Like, if you got absolutely wasted. Dude, you know what'd be cool? You know what'd be funny? No, it wouldn't be funny. This isn't funny, but I'm like, Klein, I just think he'd be like a really fun person to do like mushrooms with. Or like if we want to get really crazy, give him like LSD. And then just like send him on his way. and just like observe what he does. Anyway. Oh my god, no way! Do we get an LSD arc with Klein this chapter? I feel like dude, no, you know who I would want to no, if I was to do any sort of drug, not saying that I do drugs, but if I was to do any sort of drugs with any character in this book, it would be Emperor Roselle. And then I feel like also, like, I think, who else would also be, dude, Dream Blunt rotation, Emperor Roselle, Trissy, Amon, Garamond Sparrow, and, dude, Will Osempton. That's a child. Oh, and then Azek. That would, frankly, dude, add Frankly in there. He's got the goods. He's coming up and he's like, hey, we're gonna have a fun night. And then we all get fucked up. Anyway, back to the story. No, there's no need. That wouldn't appear decent. If I could get my hands on Frankly drugs for one night, I feel like, here's the thing, I feel like if Frankly drugs were a real thing, it would we would have world peace. They would be able to solve all the world's problems, because he would just dose them up, and then like everybody would just Kami, what did you say? You're definitely the type of girl that tried coke and got passed around in college because you only live once? Oh my god, no! I will prepare for it next time. Dude, that's a crazy... I'm speechless after that one. Yeah, fucking cover your face. Cammy, I'm about to take away your mod privileges. That's strike one. I will prepare it next time. Richardson immediately replied. Cammy chuckled and shook his head. No, there's no need. That wouldn't appear decent. Once I'm more familiar with the neighbors and have hosted a Desi-styled banquet, we can prepare some sweet iced tea. I believe that their children will like it. When Richardson realized that he had mistaken his employer's intentions, he hurriedly said in a fluster, I will keep it in mind. It only took 20 minutes to go from 160 Bulkland Street to St. Samuel Cathedral at Phelps Street on foot. Where was I? No, you are the tame one this stream. Kami, you're fucking on one today, bro. Like, what is up your ass? What did I do to you to deserve that comment? That was crazy. You know who fucking passed me around? Your parents. I'll send you the video next time. Soon the carriage stopped along the square outside the cathedral. Klein held his golden inlaid cane to get out of the carriage. Klein held his gold inlaid cane, got out of the carriage, and stopped there to enjoy the pigeons' dance. After entering the cathedral and coming to the main prayer hall, he passed his top hat and cane to Richardson. He found a seat near the aisle and sat. I didn't try and corrupt nothing. I just said that Klein would be a good person to do LSD with and then see what happens. Would you not want to? Would you not want to, like, you know, see above the gray fog, see what fuckery we could get around, you know? After an unknown period of time, his spiritual perception triggered as he opened his eyes and looked diagonally across him. Standing there was an elder dressed in black clergyman robe. His hair was sparse and his face looked pale. He resembled a dead man. From afar, he had a cold aura with a lacking expression. He blended in with the prayer hall's dark environment and certain extent. A keeper. Klein made a judgment from a single glance. He closed his eyes again and continued praying. Of course, he had already remembered the man's facial features. Big nose, grayish blue eyes, loose facial skin, and no facial hair. The elder dressed in a clergyman sat down as well. He focused on praying to the goddess inside the prayer hall. The wall in front had a few holes. Pure light shone in from them like resplendent stars. It made the dark environment appear gentle and holy. Time ticked by as Klein felt his spiritual perception trigger again. He carefully opened his eyes and saw that the black-robed keeper had left his seat and entered the passageway to the side. That should lead to the back of the cathedral. The keepers stay inside the cathedral. They have no family and don't have their own resistance. From their conditions, it's not that surprising either. Furthermore, the keepers of the Channis Gate are monitored by the bishops, so it's normal precaution. This means that I have to become friends with the priests and the bishops of St. Samuel Cathedral and to obtain the freedom and enter the area at the back of the cathedral. Klein didn't sneak any more glances as he closed his eyes and considered various problems. After some time, he slowly got up and walked to the altar. Standing in front of the donation box, he took out £50 in cash and devoutly threw it in. This made the bishop and priests on duty look over. Their gaze turned friendly as they remembered his appearance. After doing this, Klein nodded gently and the clergyman turned around and walked down the aisle towards the exit. Richardson held his hat and cane and followed closely behind. Once out the prayer hall, he walked towards the main entrance alongside the series of intricate murals and colored pane windows that lined the top. At this point, the few figures walked in. Leading was a middle-aged man with long sideburns and soft facial features. He wore a black trench coat without gloves, and nor did he carry a cane. Behind him, a young man dressed in a similar trench coat. He had black hair and green eyes, and he looked handsome with the randomly styled hair. He looked like he hadn't combed it after waking up this morning. Klein was especially familiar with this look, and figured it felt as though he hadn't seen each other for years. Leonard Mitchell, Klein's pupils constricted a little, but he didn't stop at all. He maintained his pace and stride, and he walked towards a few nighthawks in black trench coats. Yes, Klein was certain that there were nighthawks. When they met, he casually swept a gaze at Leonard and company before passing them and walking towards the main entrance. The main entrance was open and the clouds outside were thin. There was plenty of sunlight and pigeons were flying. Leonard Mitchell glanced at the believers who walked past him out of boredom, and he retracted his gaze. He said with a sigh, "I hope we can stay in Backland for a few days this time. I have a good rest." The case this time wasn't only dangerous and thrilling, but it also required us to be tense and the entire time. His team of red gloves had just cracked a human skin donning devil case, and they had captured 2 targets. This seemed easy on the surface, but it wasn't simple at all. They went through plenty of setbacks and tribulations before completing the mission with great difficulty. Every member was exhausted before in his mind. Captain Soas took his head with a smile. This is the life of the Red Gloves. You should have known that this would be how it would be back when you chose to join. However, congratulations on advancing to Solar. Oh my god, I'm so excited. Leonard Mitchell curled his lips into a smile. It's lower than I expected. Also, Captain Soas, you finally reached sequence 5. This isn't a problem with the church. I could have answered it better. I could have become a spirit warlock earlier. Soas whipped his smile as he walked into the prayer hall's corridor. Pray to the goddess. It will effectively eliminate your mental stress, allowing you to recover. As he spoke, the team of Red Gloves entered the dark and serene hall as they found a spot to sit down. Leonard was just about to focus on praying when he suddenly heard the silently aged voice ring in his mind. This person from just now is problematic. Who? Leonard kept his head down as he asked in a suppressed voice. The slightly aged voice replied, one of the men you met at the entrance. I'm living in your body and my strength hasn't recovered, so I wasn't able to see it clearly. Leonard recalled and asked softly, what do you mean by problematic? He has an ancient aura, a beyonder who has lived for a very long period of time. Leonard mumbled as he tried to investigate. Simultaneously thought the old man must be hiding certain things. He seldom volunteers to tell me that someone is problematic, yet be so vague about it. After I find the target and confirm that there's no danger for the time being, I'll leave it. I don't want to be embroiled in the conflict of some undying monster from the fourth epoch. If that person will really bring about calamity, I'll directly report it to the Archbishop. In an apartment in Cherrywood Borough, the money I borrowed from you. Forrest handed £220 to Shio. She had already received the £10 from Mr. Moon and the £500 from Ma'am Hermit. Shio Derecha grabbed at her messy blonde unsmooth hair, looked at the money and raised her head to look at Forrest. She blurted, you really are involved in illegal gambling. I have to tell you that such gambling must be a scam and a trap. They let you win in order to take your money, to make you lose more. Even though you're a trick master and have the chance of fooling them, such gambling scams might have other beyonders hiding it. Stop. Forrest lowered her hands. She said in bemused anger, do I look like someone who will participate in illegal gambling? Yes. Shio didn't hesitate in her reply. If I didn't stop you, you wouldn't just be smoking cigarettes. You'd even be smoking cannabis. Ooh. That's because my last name is not. My last name is Cool. That's because I needed to numb myself due to the pain brought about by the full moon's ravings. I no longer need to. Forrest didn't debate with Shio as she directly explained. I sold the mysticism knowledge I know to a Beyonder gathering. The person was very generous and had paid several £100s. Is that so? Shio instantly threw a problem to the back of her mind and said, there's been a new Beyonder gathering that appeared recently in Eastborough. I've been invited. A new Beyonder gathering? Forrest was first taken aback before feeling a sense of anticipation. According to her teacher, Dorian Gray, Mr. Fool, she knew that Lewis Ween was an oracle of the Roar Order, has arrived in Backland, was likely replacing the missing Mr. A. So as to rebuild... rebuild the Roar Order faction in the big city. Therefore, there was a solid chance that he was distinguished himself by an organization, a new Beyonder gathering. Forrest thought for a moment as she seemingly mindlessly to Shio. Are you going to join? Of course, I have to prepare the interrogator formula potion, Shio answered decisively. Forrest nodded and covered her mouth to yawn. Remember to bring me along when you have the privilege of inviting a new member. Chapter 741, low-styled euphemism, and it's about Leonard Mitchell. Yeah! I'm so excited, sorry. I miss my boy. Last name is your relationship status. Yeah, you know what? And there's nothing wrong with that. Low and style, a euphemism. Got it. Late at night, 7 Pinster Street, Leonard Mitchell sat on a chair with his legs raised. That's the What do you mean? I'm not running out of time. I'm not an old woman. One day I'm gonna find someone who's gonna love me and treat me right, and all this time waiting, perfect. Following that, he leaned back, causing a wooden headrest to creak from the pressure. His breathing gradually turned long and slow. After an unknown period of time, his eyelids drooped and covered his eyes. At that moment, Leonard's spirit had arrived in a gray, hazy world, but he was still in his bedroom. Okay. Give me a minute. He flew to the window and saw a thick gray fog blanket the nearby streets and extend outwards. It seemed to be embracing all of Backlund. The street lamps along the streets and the warm light from different houses appeared abnormally dim. There was only able to illuminate a very tiny region. Everything seemed to be tainted with a sense of blurriness. At the same time, blobs of illusory oval lights appeared as they enveloped houses in intersecting manners, as though it was a source of their existence. This was the city through a nightmare's eyes. Leonard followed up on his previous investigations and leaped out of the window in a nightmare state. He then flew to 17 Misk Street. He didn't attempt to storm in. He stood at the door and... Oh my god. The door... Oh, whose birthday is it? Oh, hi, Transparent! Happy birthday! Happy birthday, Transparent! He stood at the door in the thick fog as he politely pulled the doorbell. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Dressed in her nightgown, Stellan Sammer opened the door. She placed her silver inlaid pleated fan as her chest as she asked in confusion and puzzlement, "Who are you looking for?" She was none other than Klein's landlord back when he was acting as Sherlock Moriarty. She was a blonde-haired, blue-eyed lady in her 30s. Leonard had already changed into the black and white checkered police uniform. He casually showed his identification and asked, Do you know Sherlock Moriarty?" Trapped in the dream, Stellan's reaction was very slow. She asked after a second, did something happen to him? Just as she asked, her impression of Sherlock Moriarty appeared beside her under Leonard's influence. He wore a half-top hat, a double-breasted frock coat, gold-rimmed spectacles on his nose, and a bushy mustache around his mouth. This was identical to the information he previously received about Sherlock Moriarty. Hence, he didn't show any doubts and said, "He's been involved in a case and undergoing the investigation. I hope you can cooperate with us." All right. Stellan wished to raise her chin, but for some reason she felt a little horrified. Leonard thought for a second and asked, "Since when did he rent this place from you?" "Early September last year," Stellan said after recalling her memories. Leonard continued asking, "What do you know of him, or should I say, what kind of person do you think he was?" When that was mentioned, Stellan appeared as though she had long considered the answer to such a question. "He comes from Midshire, and he has an accent from that area. He is very capable detective, and he once exposed the adultery which Mary's husband was undertaking. However, his income isn't too high. He doesn't even hire a full-time housemaid. All he can do is get my maid to help him part-time. My children tell me that he's good at telling stories, especially detective-related stories. This might be why he had chosen this profession." Without giving Leonard a chance to interrupt her, she droned on incessantly. "He's not a boorish like the typical detectives. He went to grammar school and studied history. What leaves me most envious of all is how he obtained Mary's gratitude. He joined the Quelag Club, where its members are people of significant status. I've only been there a few times. Later, he apparently became a famous detective circles, and private detectives often came looking for him. Leonard lost his patience listening to her drone on, as he couldn't help but rub his temples. He hadn't failed to obtain any useful information from Miss Stellan, apart from Sherlock Moriarty's poor financial situation, him being good at telling detective stories. The rest was within the scope of what he had previously investigated. He even knew that Sherlock Moriarty had good ties with Isengard Stanton. Next, I'll investigate those from the Quella Cub who have good relationship with Sherlock Moriarty. Once he patiently finished listening to Stellan's drone, he immediately thanked her and left her dream. 160 Bokeland Street, inside Dwayne Donovan's mansion. In the hall that could accommodate more than 100 dancers, Klein had embraced a lady in... Klein was embracing a lady in her 30s as they danced. It's too old for him. This was the etiquette teacher that Walter had hired. Her name was Johanna Heisen. She had a common name. That's not a fucking common name. What are we talking about right now? But she wasn't ordinary at all. Her facial features were only above average, but her disproportion was impeccable. Her every action was filled with charm. According to Walter's introduction, she was born in the Baron family. She received a good education from a young age and later entered the palace. She had a good job and a court lady until she was married. As her family had declined and her husband's financial situation was only ordinary, being a believer of the Evernight goddess prompted her to choose to become a private tutor in etiquette. She often went to the families of nobles and tycoons to teach their children. Although the butler didn't spell it out, Klein knew that he couldn't perform badly in front of this lady, or there was no way to save his reputation. The way members of high society asked about a person's situation was mainly through common acquaintances, and at times the interaction between servants also mattered. Mr. Dantes, it's hard for me to imagine you not having learned these dance steps before. In less than half an hour, you're as skilled as a noble who received education on this from a young age. It's all thanks to your teachings. Klein gave a humble smile as he wore a warm, humble look. With the crown's balance, dancing was a very easy matter for him. Wahana lowered her head and chuckled softly. You're a gentleman who can really make a lady happy. She immediately raised her light brown eyes and swept her gaze across Dwayne Dantes' silver sideburns and deep blue eyes. That's the best praise I've heard today. Klein replied with a smile during this period. His feet kept moving as he spun Wahana gently around. Not far away, the hired quadrant's melodious music echoed through the hall. He had the intention to have close ties with Wahana, not to improve his reputation, but because she was once a court lady. After Wahana corrected a minor mistake that Dwayne Dantes committed, she said, when inviting a lady to dance, it's not only a dance, you also need to converse. You can't be like two dolls, useless. Both of you are so immersed in the dance and music rhythmic that you don't wish to speak. Of course, that's also a form of communication of the heart. When conversing, you must be euphemistic, because this is Lowen, not Intis. Unfortunately. To put this simply, do not be direct and cruel. You need to appear gentlemanly. Let me raise an example. If you wish to compliment a lady for her perfume, you can't directly tell her how nice it smells, nor ask what kind of perfume it is to praise her. You need to connect more euphemistic meaning to it and mention that. You can say something like, I feel like I'm out in the spring meadows. Of course, this needs to match the traits of the perfume. Jesus. There's no itinerary, there's no literary feel. Shouldn't you say that the moon is beautiful, isn't it? Klein lampooned with a Japanese-styled euphemism, as he said with a self-deprecating smile, thank you for not telling me that my praises weren't gentlemanly enough. Wahana smiled deepened. Mr. Dantes, do you know what kind of gentleman is very welcomed by women in social events? Pray, do tell. Klein honestly shook his head. Wahana said without a change in her smile, the second most popular type are men who make women think that he's very intelligent. What about the first? Klein said cooperatively. Wahana glanced at him and said, the most popular type of men who make women think that they are very intelligent. Wait, hold up. The second most popular type of men who make women think that he's very intelligent. The most popular type of men who make women think that they are very intelligent. I got it. It wasn't connecting. Upon saying that, she smiled and didn't say another word. Klein instantly understood what she was hiding, her praise in between the lines. So this is Leonard-styled euphemism. It's not like intis where they just aim straight for the lower half of the body. That's what's written in papers and magazines. I have no way of confirming what real intis social events are like. Anyway, both countries often sully each other. The Emperor's era does match the description, though. Klein nodded in enlightenment. The 2-hour etiquette lesson ended in a harmonious mood. Klein watched teacher Johanna Henson to the door and butler Walter and valet Richardson before giving her a tiny gift. It was a moonlight, a perfume from Dream Company. It was mixed with gray amber, making it rather expensive. As for how much it was, Klein wasn't sure, as housekeeper Tanya was responsible for buying it. The payment was through her. Only when the £1,000 was almost expended would she come to him with receipts and lists for him to vet so as to receive fresh funds. Oh my god, enjoy your tea party. Happy birthday. This reason why Klein knew the company and perfume was that his butler had informed him ahead of time. It was to prevent him from appearing insincere if Ma'am Johanna were to ask. From this detail, he had a deep understanding of the use of a good butler. Watching the satisfied Ma'am Johanna Henson leave, Klein held back the urge to rub his temples as he sighed inwardly. This is more tiring than a beyonder battle. I have to constantly watch my actions and deliberate over my words. I need some rest. At this point, the white-gloved Walter took a step forward and said, Sir, since you wish for your etiquette studies to progress faster, we can move the reframing lessons forward. What lessons? Klein felt a headache. History, international politics, philosophy, music, as well as general knowledge of sports like golf, racing, and hunting. Walter answered meticulously. Philosophy? Klein asked in surprise. Walter nodded. It's one of the most common topics discussed in high society. You don't need to have a very deep research into it, but you need to know what others are discussing. You need to know that the origins of philosophy stemmed from Consoca, Maretti, and Patterson, and not Emperor Roselle. You need to know that man was born free came from Yumi. When tycoons first entered high society, many of them often made mistakes in such aspects. They're used to attributing certain sentences and philosophical thoughts to Emperor Roselle. Klein felt his headache and more his heart as the more he heard. He forcefully smiled and said, I haven't gotten any matters to do recently apart from my afternoon nap. And heading to the cathedral, you can arrange the lesson to be any time. In a dark room, a letter floated up and opened by itself before shaking a piece of paper. In her thin bonnet, Sharon's... Ooh, we're getting a Sharon POV? I don't think we've ever gotten a Sharon POV. Sharon's figure was outlined. She grasped the letter and seriously read through it. She then wrote a reply and set up a ritual to summon Sherlock Moriarty's messenger. During this process, she didn't forget to prepare a gold coin. Soon, Sharon finished the incantation as she watched the candle flame burgeon and be tainted with a gloomy green color. Renette Tinker, with their 4 blonde, red-eyed heads in hand, appeared out of the candlelight and appeared before Sharon. Sharon's eyes constricted as her doll-like face suddenly showed immense emotional fluctuation. She blurted out, Teacher, haven't you already... Oh, whoa, what? Hold up. Teacher, haven't you already... Bro, sudden lore drop. I'm really struggling here right now. Interesting. This, to be honest, will probably be my last chapter. My head is really starting to hurt. 160 Boakland Street in a sunny... In a sunny study, the bookshelves were ordinarily arranged in a huge collection at a glance. One appeared as though they had stepped onto a private library. Klein sat on the high-backed chairs. He read the newspapers. He discovered that, be it the Tussock Times or the Backland Daily Tribune, there was an additional advertisement in striking spot. In advertised selling 10% of the Backland Bike Company shares. Mr. Stanton was rather efficient. It's only been a few days, and he has completed the financial checks and evaluation. Klein silently reflected on the matter when his spiritual perception was triggered. Oh, my fucking lip. I just bit my lip, and that really hurt. He quickly activated his spirit vision and saw Renette Tinker walk out of the void. She still held the 4 blonde, red-eyed heads in her hand, with one of them having a letter in its mouth. It's likely a reply from Miss Sharon. As Klein had these thoughts, he reached out and received it and nodded, "Thank you." As he spoke, he subconsciously glanced at the door because standing outside was his valet, Richardson. After tearing open the envelope and unfolding the letter, Klein quickly scanned it, confirming that it was written by Sharon. He indicated that she had no intention of buying a biological poison bottle, and she might only consider it after a period of time if it was still available. Klein casually thought and instinctively felt that it was the latter. This was because it was impossible for a demigod named Zatwin to keep saying in Backland. For now, Sharon and Merrick had escaped in pursuit of the Rose School thought, and with their beyond their powers and unique traits about their sequences, it wasn't difficult for them to amass money in relaxed environments. Furthermore, they seemed to be in charge of illegal arms dealing in the Bravehearts Bar, and they were the backers behind Ian. Just this alone would make them plenty of money. As his thoughts about it, Klein looked up and saw Miss Messenger's 8 red eyes looking at him intently. He jumped in fright, imagining that she was urging him to pay the debt he owed her. He cleared his throat and said, "There's no need to reply. I'll be paying the first installment within a week." Renette Tinker's forehead spoke out one after another. "There's no rush. There's no interest. Miss Messenger is quite nice after all." As Klein sighed, Renette Tinker vanished from her spot, returning back to the depth of the spirit world. After burning the letter and restraining for half an hour, he walked to the door and informed Richardson to prepare the carriage. He planned on heading to the cathedral before his philosophy class in the afternoon. The journey there was smooth sailing, and Klein arrived in... Also, I can be intelligent. Just so we're aware. After gaining the serenity from taking the sights out of the pigeon, he strode towards the cathedral's main door and entered the prayer hall. They randomly found a pew to sit at. Like before, Richardson sat diagonally behind him. This was the master hall in the cane. As he emptied his mind during the prayers, Klein's spiritual perception was triggered once again. He instinctively opened his eyes and looked left. He saw the black-haired, green-eyed Leonard Mitchell. Oh my god. He saw the green-eyed Leonard Mitchell. The Nighthawk wasn't wearing a trench coat. He looked casual in his white shirt tucked out, while matching them with starlight trousers and black vest. Seeing the middle-aged man with gray streaks at his sideburns looked at him, he smiled with a nod, retracted his gaze, and closed his eyes in a bid to pretend to pray. He wasn't worried that the man would discover that he was watching him, because he had only drawn a curious sweep around without any additional actions. Many believers present had similar actions as well. It was inevitable for a good-looking, dignified gentleman to attract some attention. When he entered, Leonard Mitchell was someone who often attracted much attention, so he knew this very well. At this moment, the slightly aged voice sounded in his mind. "It's him." He didn't make my hard work of running over to the cathedral yesterday, and today would be in vain, Leonard thought smugly. His expression remained stoic. Congratulations, Merlin. Klein was also pretending to pray his puzzlement sufficed in his thinking mind. When did this fellow Leonard become so pious? He's not. Although he's definitely more pious than me, he's not the kind of person who would come to the cathedral every day. He would come once or twice a week at best. What's his goal for coming? He seemed to be observing me just now. Once upon having this thought, Klein suddenly realized something. The grandpa in him is the angel of the makes him an angel of the marauder. Blasphemer Aemon is the king of angels of this pathway. He could The second I mention Aemon, we get a lag. Coincidence? I think not. The grandpa in him was the angel of the Zoras family, which makes him an angel of the marauder pathway. Blasphemer Aemon is the king of this pathway. He could be discovered the gray fog and even tried to infiltrate it, so it's very possible that the grandpa and Leonard can also sense the gray fog or the trace of its powers on me. Upon making this judgment, Klein immediately felt his heart in his throat. He felt like dangerous traps were surrounding him. He maintained his praying posture, and the eyes under his eyelids remained motionless. His entire person was calm and reserved, completely identical to the cathedral's atmosphere. After an unknown period of time, he slowly got up and walked to the altar. He came before the donation box and threw a total of 50 pounds in cash. Following that, bro, he's throwing money around. Why are you not throwing it on me? Following that, he did the same as before, smiling at the bishop and priest on the duty while nodding. He received a rather friendly response. The moment he walked out of St. Samuel Cathedral, Klein received his hat from Richardson, and he fled the pigeons on the square for about 10 minutes. And behind him, the believers who had fished their prayers walked out, including Leonard Mitchell. Without looking at the entrance, Klein leisurely clapped his hands, took off the gold inlaid cane, and walked to the nearby four-wheeled carriage. Honey, I've seen all the artworks. Unless there's more. But I've probably seen them. Let's be real. Leonard was similarly feeding the pigeons on the square, but he didn't have any intention of following. When he saw the target leave on the carriage, since the person had an ancient aura and that the parasite in him placed such importance on him, he obviously didn't dare to be careless. He didn't act directly as he was extremely dangerous. He planned on making superficial investigations to gather the required intelligence. I'll see what old man has to say when the time comes. Besides, it's not like there's any direction for investigation at the moment. There can be that many of a particular type of high-end carriage in Backland. No matter this hire or if it's rented, it's easy to determine the source. Then I know the identity, glancing at the pigeons as he thought leisurely. When he was an experienced nighthawk, and he was even an elite red glove among the nighthawks. At this moment, the pigeon spread across its wings and flew over. In its beak, there appeared to be a paper slip. Leonard frowned as he reached out his left palm and saw the pigeon fly down before dropping the slip. Then he flapped his wings and flew off. Raising the paper slip, Leonard weirdly unfolded it. While feeling puzzled, he saw 2 lines of text on it. Zorast Parasite. This, Leonard's pupils suddenly contracted as he felt all the hairs stand up. His emotions nearly exploded as the very instant. That gentleman has seen through my secret. As expected of someone with an ancient aura. He might be one of the undying monsters that remained from the 4th epoch. He's warning me that I shouldn't involve myself in his matters or even come close to him. Oh my god. At that moment, Leonard felt that every action the middle-aged man with white hair, sideburns, and blue eyes had done had left him shocked when he recalled them. He was someone not to be looked at directly or approached. He immediately lost all thoughts of investigating the man. As he watched the pigeons land, he said with his suppressed voice, "Old man, he might be an old friend of yours. If you wish to investigate, then it's best that you wait till your strength recovers." Old friend. A slightly aged voice repeated the two words as though he found it suspect couldn't be certain. Leonard quickly covered his emotions and chuckled. "So you're someone from the Zoras family." At this moment, about 100 meters away, at an intersection in Phelps Street and the other two streets, the black-haired Dwayne Dantes, who had streaks of gray hair, leaned into the wall as he slowly closed his eyes, not crossed, closed. Hiding the wrinkled facial features in the shadows of the carriage, to the side of the valet, Richardson, a middle-aged man wearing a dark red coat and old triangle hat, appeared, bowing to his master before disappearing. No one saw this illusory figure. The carriage slowly turned to a flock of pigeons flew up from the square. After returning home and entering the room with a huge balcony, the silent Klein finally heaved a sigh of relief. If Leonard didn't accept the warning because of the grandpa's bewitchment, he planned on writing another slip in containment, "I know where Blasphemer Amen is." In between the lines, it means, "I'll tell Blasphemer Amen that there's a Zoras family angel here if you foil my plans." This wouldn't make the grandma believe that Dwayne Dantes was so weak that he had to rely on others to fend him off. It was more of a friendly warning that wouldn't number beyond three times, a form of respect towards an angel. If 2 warnings weren't enough to rein him in, there was no other choice but to inform Blasphemer Amen. Yes, there's a very high chance that this would scale there. There must be other plays or difficulties for this grandpa to choose to parasitize in such a shallow manner. He likely doesn't wish for me to flip the table. This matter is all thanks to a Rhodes. If he hadn't informed me ahead of time that Leonard has a marauder angel, I definitely wouldn't have noticed that I've been a target, much less have the suitable excuse and method to warn them. Klein thought calmly as he didn't show the anxiety of flustered state from before. As he relaxed, there was a knock on the door. His valet Richardson said, "Sir, the butler wishes to seek an audience with you." "Please invite him in." Klein left the balcony and returned to the half-open room. The white-gloved Walter entered and said, "Sir, your philosophy teacher, Mr. Hammond, is here." Philosophy classes. Klein rubbed his aching temples. Dude, this is giving me flashbacks to Volume 1, when he had to go to, like, mysticism classes and, like, fighting classes and stuff. And the Leonard's back. This is kind of giving just, like, better written Volume 1 vibes, which I really like. He had previously heard from Walters that Mr. Hammond is a believer of the Lord of Storms. It was the same for the famous scholar Lumi as well. Many of the philosophers in the Lowen Kingdom shared the same faith. This made him rather surprised, because to him, believers of the storm were... But we got a little bit of Leonard, you know? Oh, no, I'm not shading Volume 1 at all. I'm just saying that Volume 4, you can see the improvement in his writing. It's actually a compliment. We got a little bit of Leonard. I feel like he'll be back. They're not going to tease me with a little bit of Leonard and not give me more. I am shading. No! This made him rather surprised, because to him, believers of the storm were irascible bros. From the looks of it, I have to change my stereotypes and subjective impressions. The prerequisite to being a philosopher is to not have a wife or not have a cordial relationship with their families. As Klein lampooned, he straightened his clothes and walked to the door. He said to the butler, "Walter, all right, I'll head over there now." Chapter 753, Bishop Visits. Okay, I'm all done. I'm gonna stop here because my head hurts. Yeah, like, here's the thing. I love Volume 1. I really do. I really do love Volume 1. I really do like all the volumes. My only thing is like volume 3, it was noticeably different that the writing had improved. Volume 4, again, noticeably see the writing improve from volume 1, which is really nice. And I like it. Thanks so much for coming. Yeah. I still like volume 1. I like volume 1 more than volume 2. I'll say it. I like volume 1 more than I like volume 2. I am all done. There's no stream tomorrow. There's also not going to be a stream on Monday. So we're going to have a 2-day break. And then I'll be back on Tuesday, which will be good. I know. But it gives you guys time. Gives you guys time. Cami, you actually have to like have a proper sleep cycle. What? Shocking. But other than that, thanks so much for coming. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. Bye. Happy birthday, Transparent, one last time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day today also.